Hey guys, and welcome to today's video where we are going to be talking about the website OnlyFans and their recent decision to ban all adult content from their site from October this year. We're going to be talking about why this decision was made, what the implications of it are going to be, and some of my opinions on it. I think it's important to note here that I've never used OnlyFans, so everything I'm going to say is from an outside perspective rather than someone who is on the site. So people who are on the site might have different opinions about what's going on right now, but this is just kind of what it looks like to me from the outside, if that makes sense. So before we start, make sure you subscribe down below with notifications on so you don't miss an upload, and don't forget to leave a like on this video if you do go on to enjoy it. So to start off with, we're going to have a timeline of OnlyFans' development as a website, how it became so popular in the first place, and some of the issues that it has faced so far. So OnlyFans is a subscriptions-based service where creators will post content in the form of photos, videos, or live streams. This content can only be accessed by subscribers who pay a monthly fee, of which 80% of the fee goes to the creator and 20% is kept by OnlyFans. There is also the option for creators to make content that is pay-per-view, aka you pay a one-time set fee to access that one particular piece of content. So OnlyFans was launched in November of 2016 by brothers Tim and Thomas Stokely using a £10,000 loan from their father. Tim was made CEO of the company, Thomas was named Chief Operating Officer, and their father is Head of Finance. And the original idea for OnlyFans did not involve it being an adult site at all. It did not involve any kind of not safe for work content, but 2 years after its development, the Ukrainian-American businessman Leonid Radvinsky, not sure if I've said that right or not, acquired 75% of the company, and he was already the owner of the website My Free Cams and saw OnlyFans as a site with a massive unexplored potential for sharing of adult content, similar to that is provided on some of the other websites that he owns. So there was already some adult content creators on the site, namely porn stars who were looking for a way to make more money off of interacting with their biggest fans, but the site was largely unknown, so the user base was very small. Following the majority takeover, OnlyFans became a lot more well known for its adult content. It began to kind of push itself more as an adult content site, although it's never advertised itself as such, and even now still it will only promote creators on there who aren't making adult content, but that is generally what it's known for. And many sex workers actually joined the site as a way to either boost their income or create a new job for themselves that didn't involve doing any in real life meetups. So the only real significant event in OnlyFans history after the takeover but before the pandemic was in January 2020, where a woman on Twitter by the name of Kaylin Ward, who also went by the Naked Philanthropist, used OnlyFans as a way to raise money for the Australian bushfires. So first of all, she started off just selling her nudes and ended up raising over $1 million, and then OnlyFans partnered with her to offer a subscription service that would then raise more money for the wildfires, and that kind of started a trend of creators using the site as a way to raise money for charity. Although supposedly sites like this have issues with donating to charity because some charities don't want to be associated with money that's come from things like adult content, but for the most part it's been a good thing that that's what it's been used for. So OnlyFans was well known by the time the pandemic rolled around in March 2020, but many put the recent success of the site down to the fact that people had a lot more time on their hands and a lot less disposable income, so a lot of people looking for a way to make money through a side hustle, and some turned to OnlyFans. One big selling point of the site was that people who were unknown, so not celebrities, not influencers, they could make a lot of money very quickly by joining the site and growing a subscriber base. So even though this was quite a rare occurrence to get thousands and thousands of subscribers if you weren't known for anything else, it did happen to some people. Some people have made a complete turnaround in their life by joining OnlyFans, but a lot of people just kind of get an extra maybe £50 to £100 a week, which, I mean, for a lot of people that's enough for them, that's all that they need. But the kind of selling point of you could get rich really quickly didn't happen to a lot of people, although that was why a lot of people chose OnlyFans over other side hustles like YouTube, where you have to put in a lot more work before you can even start to get paid, whereas with OnlyFans you can get paid as soon as you have 1 subscriber. So the most significant growth for OnlyFans came in May 2020 after the release of the remix of the song Savage by Megan Thee Stallion, which featured Beyonce, was released, and the one line that Beyonce rapped mentioned OnlyFans in it. She said, "On that demon time, she might start an OnlyFans," which resulted in the CEO, Tim Stokely, revealing that during the period immediately after the song's release, they were seeing 200,000 new users joining every day and 6,000 to 8,000 new creators, which is a massive amount of people to be joining the site every 24 hours. So to also capitalize from this growth, OnlyFans decided to partner with the reality show Demon Time, which obviously was also mentioned in the line in the song, to create a virtual monetized nightclub using the platform's dual screen live feature. I can't find much info on this. All you can find is the articles saying that like they've announced that it's going to happen. There's nothing about how successful it actually was, but considering that I was like searching through Google and I couldn't find any links that would send you to where you could join that nightclub, I would assume that it's not active anymore and therefore that it wasn't particularly successful in comparison to other ventures that the company has been involved in. If I am wrong, correct me on that, because I have absolutely no idea. There just wasn't very much information about this online. So the increase in awareness of OnlyFans and the increase in user base during the pandemic also attracted some celebrities and influencers to the platform. As for them, it's an easy way to make a quick buck. People already know them, they already have an audience who would be willing to subscribe to them, so they kind of bypass the extra work that some of the other creators have to put in to actually just get themselves off the ground. One such creator was Bella Thorne, who joined the site in August 2020 and reportedly earned $1 million in the first 24 hours and $2 million in the first week, which set a new record on the site. Bella's arrival on the platform, however, was not the best news for OnlyFans, because then she decided to create a pay-per-view photo, which would be $200, which caused a lot of problems for, well, everyone on the site. Basically, when her followers bought the photo, she had advertised it as a nude photo. It wasn't. She was in lingerie, so they didn't want to pay $200 for a lingerie photo that had been misadvertised to them, so they then charged back to OnlyFans, and OnlyFans had to pay a lot of money out to all these people who had been misled into paying this money for something. Only a day after this happened, OnlyFans introduced new guidelines and new restrictions on how much you can charge for pay-per-views, how much subscribers could tip, and when you would be getting your payments. So they capped pay-per-view content at $50 per piece of content, and they capped tips at $100, which essentially tips are just money that subscribers can give to a creator for whatever they want. So, you know, they could just tip you randomly, or you could have a conversation with them and they could send you a tip, or they could send you a tip and say, can you do this? It's kind of like how you get tips in a restaurant if you give good service. And prior to this, there'd been no maximum for either of these ways of making money, so unsurprisingly other sex workers who were using the platform were not very happy with this, because that had like massively capped their earning potential from those two methods. They were upset that celebrities who were using their platform as a way to make a quick buck when they didn't need it were ruining it for everyone else. There was also the change to payments, meaning that instead of getting paid every week and your money would be delayed by 1 week, so for example, the money that you made from the 1st to the 7th of the month, you would get that on the 14th of the month because it would be delayed by 1 week. Instead of that, you would have all the money for 1 month delayed until the next month, the same way that you do in like a normal job, or that you do like on YouTube, for example. So you will get your earnings from July at the end of August, so the payments are pending now for 30 days rather than just 7. Obviously this was to avoid troubles with the site with people like Bella, so she had charged all this money for this content, taken the money and had her payment, and then people had started to charge back, and OnlyFans had already paid her, so they then had to take the refunds out of their own pocket. So if they keep payments pending for 30 days instead, it means that if there's any issues, they're most likely to come up before the creator gets paid. So if there's anything wrong, any refunds demanded, they can be taken out of the creator's paycheck rather than out of OnlyFans' pocket. So OnlyFans actually responded to this and said that the changes were not as a result of what Bella had done, but the timing was very sus considering it came straight after what she'd done. They said it was part of like an ongoing kind of restructuring, but the timing of the restrictions would indicate it was a result of what Bella had done. and a lot of people still blame her for this. So Bella's record was also broken in April 2021 when Bad Baby joined the site and made $1 million in 6 hours, which then also caused controversy because she had only turned 18 the week before. So then that sparked a discussion about all the people who were subscribing to her and raised concerns about how long had they been sexualizing her for before she actually turned 18, because bearing in mind she'd been in the public eye since she was 13 years old. This leads quite nicely onto a documentary that did actually feature some OnlyFans creators and some discussions of the platform and child pornography, which was called #nudes4sale and premiered on BBC Three in 2020. So it's not particularly widely known about that this documentary exists because BBC Three hasn't been on air for many years. It's on iPlayer only, so there was no like advertising that this actually existed, but BBC basically did a full investigation into the #nudes4sale on Twitter and people who were selling nudes to strangers on the internet and social media, and they also did like a section in this about OnlyFans because obviously that's a platform that a lot of people use to sell their nudes on the internet. So the documentary speaks with a lot of creators who have earnings that range from like £37,000 a month to a couple of £100 that act as a lifeline to put a roof over that creator's head. And the research that was done that found that in a single day, 1/3 of profiles on Twitter advertising nudes for sale were from underage people, and a lot of them were using OnlyFans as the method to sell those nudes. So OnlyFans did introduce a verification process in 2019, which required the user wanting to share content to provide a like selfie headshot of them holding their ID so that you could tell it was their ID and it wasn't a fake one. But clearly this process was not working if so many underage profiles were slipping through the net. And one creator that the BBC spoke to was age 17, who said that she'd first set her account up with a fake ID, which had then been shut down, but she then created another account and was actively posting and selling content on there, and that account hadn't been taken down yet, which is proof that even with these new ID rules, there are still profiles that are slipping through the cracks. Although a second investigation in May of 2021 by the BBC claimed that OnlyFans was not doing enough to prevent underage users selling or appearing in content on their site, the National Centre for Missing or Exploited Children reported that under 100 instances of CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material, was as a result of content shared on OnlyFans, which when put into context with the 20.3 million cases that came from Facebook, seems minuscule in comparison. So there's obviously some differences between these statistics and what the BBC was finding in their investigation, so I don't know which one is correct. So currently in the UK there's no laws that require OnlyFans to screen all content on their site to make sure that there's no one under 18 appearing in it, although it is looking likely that that is going to change in the near future, which we're going to talk about later on, but that's to do with like an online harms safety bill, which is due to be kind of debated soon. I just don't know when. There's already a white paper about it, which means that the government is going to debate it and it is going to become law at some point, but that's not law yet. An article published by the BBC only a week ago, which I know we're talking a lot about the BBC, but they are seemingly the only people in the UK who have actually investigated all of this in detail, so we are going to use them as a source for now, although I wouldn't be entirely reliant on them for anything else. An article published by them a week ago found OnlyFans had a compliance manual, which was what moderators use to check content to find stuff that broke their terms of service. So a moderator who was interviewed for the article said that on some days he could view up to 2,000 photos and videos when looking for things that break the term of service. The way he does it is using keywords or buzzwords to search through like bios, photos and private conversations between users and subscribers to find any content that is not flagged to them. So some of the content that they'd come across involved bestiality, spygams, guns, knives and drugs, and he said that he doesn't believe that some things are being moderated enough, but he doesn't mention what those things are that he believes needs more moderation. So moderation guidelines obtained that were sent to moderators in 2020 did not flag child content as an issue, but instead flagged prostitution and adverts for sex for sale as the issue, and the BBC's investigation found 30 active accounts at the time of searching whose bios contained words flagged to moderators as adverts for sex for sale, such as paper meet, cash meets, book meet, IRL meet and Skort, and 10 days after they found these accounts, only 2 of them had been taken down. So clearly this is also an issue that the platform is facing. This is kind of part of a bigger discussion about the topic of moderation, which I've looked into as part of like an extracurricular thing for my degree, and there's a lot of debate about how much content moderation a site should actually be expected to do before it should be held legally accountable for illegal content such as adverts for prostitution and CSAM that ends up published on their site. So on the one hand, if a platform is not doing enough and this content is appearing on there and allowing this content to be posted on their site, they should be held responsible. But on the other hand, where should the line be drawn? Because every system of moderation has errors, whether they be AI errors or human errors, and things will slip through the net regardless of how rigorous your system is. So making sites liable for everything that gets posted on there that breaks terms of service or breaks laws could result in like mass culls of content, which would mean that sites, because they would be liable for everything, they would then over moderate and remove stuff that isn't against the law, but for fear that if something happens to slip through, that they will be held legally accountable for that one thing. So they will then just mass remove anything that gets reported to them, which then that system could obviously be abused by people who just want to take down other people's content, and then we just end up in a big mess. So there isn't really a right answer to what happens in this situation, and it does remain to be seen whether we're actually going to see any criminal sanctions or any criminal responsibility placed on sites hosting user-generated content, and if there is criminal responsibility assigned, how much content does there need to be before they are criminally responsible. But it is an interesting dilemma to think about, and there's a lot of good points to be made on both sides. If you are interested in reading about that, I can also upload my essay that I wrote about it to a Google Doc if anyone wants to read it and see what I had to say about that, but it's not something I want to go into a lot of detail about right now. So back to OnlyFans, and the recent BBC investigation also found something particularly interesting about their system of moderation, which was revealed in a document dated February 2021. So this document details how sanctions are to be handed out to creators and how creators are to be given warnings for sharing content that breaks the terms of service, but that the more lucrative, aka the creators who make the most money, should be given more leniency in their sanctions than those who don't make much money on the platform. Basically, in terms of punishments, the more followers you have, the more you can get away with in terms of posting things that are illegal or against the terms of service, because you are making the platform the most money and they don't want to get rid of that. All the recommendations for moderators, however, state that 5 instances of illegal content should be found before an issue is escalated to management. The fact that there has to be at least 5 instances of something like CSAM or bestiality on an account, more if the account makes a lot of money, for it to be terminated, shows that OnlyFans has some tolerance for illegal content on their platform, and has more tolerance than other platforms, because most platforms would give you 3 warnings, if that, never mind 5. Like 5 options, 5 chances to post something illegal before your account gets terminated is a whole lot more chances than you would get anywhere else. And one other issue that they found with moderation was foreign language accounts. So OnlyFans was curated in the UK, and they have issues with detecting illegal content on accounts that are in other languages. So the BBC set up 2 subscriber accounts, one in French and one in German, both with bios stating that they are clearly underage, like stating I am not 18, and then offering to sell photographs to people, and neither of those accounts got flagged within the week that the BBC gave them before they contacted OnlyFans and said, look, this is an issue, we've done this, and no one's taken our accounts down. And there were like other parts of this investigation that I've not mentioned here, but I don't have time to go over absolutely everything, so I'll just link the article down below if you want to read it, along with the documentary as well. But I do want to draw your attention to one quote, which I think is very interesting, which links very nicely to what I am about to talk about. So the quote comes from children's rights campaigner Baroness Kidron, who says, companies should withdraw their commercial support unless and until there is an OnlyFans that is clearly an adult site. And what she's referencing here is that she thinks banks and credit card companies or payment processing companies should not support payments made through OnlyFans unless the site can sort the issues it has with illegal content and CSAM. So this leads me on to the discussion that made me want to talk about OnlyFans in a video in the first place, which was the announcement that from October 2021 the company would not allow sexually explicit content to be posted on their site. So a lot of people took this to mean that OnlyFans was ditching adult content in an attempt to attract new investors, because a lot of investors do not want to put money into adult sites and would therefore blacklist them for their reputation for the kind of content that they provide. However, the reality is actually worse when considered in the context of people like the 20-year-old Sasha, who the BBC interviewed, who said that the extra money she made from OnlyFans was the only reason why she could afford to keep fed and warm. So the real reason why OnlyFans is banning adult content from 1st of October 2021 is because MasterCard is changing their rules from October 1st 2021 that govern adult sites using their payment processing systems, which would require every site hosting adult content to not only verify the identity of every user and every person appearing in any adult content, but also to review every single piece of content before it is uploaded to the site, which includes moderators real-time watching live streams as they happen. Now, these new processes of like record keeping, verification and review processes will be a whole lot more expensive than the current rules that OnlyFans have to implement. And put simply, the website does not see the benefit of continuing to host adult content where a large chunk of their profits that they make from that content is going to have to be spent on reviewing it and making sure that it's safe to post, and instead they'd rather just scrap adult content altogether and move towards a more kind of family-friendly PG site. It's disappointing to see that the most popular adult content subscription site pull the plug completely with no warning to its creators, because now the pressure is on the smaller sites with the same kind of model, which is going to be huge if they also pull the plug, because the creators currently have nowhere to go. If OnlyFans shuts down, these creators do not have any other big sites that they can migrate to, so potentially they are going to be put in danger if they start using illegal sites instead because they are desperate, or even worse, they start turning to, in real life, sex work as a way to make that extra money that they need. It also means that the smaller sites will have to take risk in putting processes in place that will comply with the new MasterCard rules before these rules come into play on the 1st of October, on the basis that if OnlyFans go through with the ban, these creators will need to migrate somewhere else and they will be looking for other sites that they can go to, and if those smaller sites have not changed their rules, they also will not be able to use the MasterCard payment process. So the risk is that they can't guarantee that OnlyFans is going to go through with this, and they also can't guarantee that the creators are going to choose their site to migrate to. So they're going to have to spend a whole lot of money putting all these verification processes in place on the basis that they might get a payout when all the creators come to their platform that used to be on OnlyFans. And the reason for this change is actually a cog that's been in the works for a whole lot longer than you might think. So in December 2020, an opinion piece was posted in the New York Times called "The Children of Pornhub" by Nick Kristof, who accuses Pornhub and its parent company of profiting from revenge porn, child porn and sex trafficking, which, to be fair, Pornhub did not have the right guidelines and rules in place to protect people from being exploited for this kind of content. And some of the points that were made against them were completely valid, because they did need to get their act together and stop allowing this type of content to appear on their platform. But as a result of this, Visa and MasterCard both put a blanket ban on anyone using their services to make payments to Pornhub, and since then the site has made changes so that only verified users can post content, but the damage was done because the big payment processors had already pulled out. And now those big payment processors also want to remove themselves from any other adult content sites that may be involved in sex trafficking, CSAM, etc., because obviously it's a bad look for them to be allowing money to be paid to these sites that are making this kind of content or promoting this kind of content. The real kicker here, though, is that Kristof, while he was correct on some of his points about Pornhub, his overarching opinions and the way that he wrote about this issue was both manipulative and spreading misinformation, because it came from a place of Christian propaganda. So a primary source that he uses in this opinion piece is the founder of group Trafficking Hub, Leila, who is also part of the group Exodus Cry, which is anti-sex, anti-Semitic and homophobic, and it is a Christian group. The wider aims of this group is not to stop sex trafficking, it's to bring down the sex industry completely. They want to eradicate the sex work industry because its existence by principle does not align with their views, regardless of whether the content is legal and consensual or not. So we've seen this happen before, where groups are anti-sex industry and use a guise of being against some other kind of exploitation as a way to achieve their wider goal. And one example being the Anti-Porn Morality in the Media group, which then renamed itself to the National Centre on Sexual Exploitation. They are not anti-sexual exploitation, they are anti-porn, they are anti-sex work completely. And Kristof himself has done this before, using manipulated stories of abuse as a way to attack the industry at large. And what's happened here is that the attack on Pornhub used the guise of concern over sex trafficking to bring down the industry from the inside through turning the big payment companies away, because they really are the people who are the backbone of this online industry now. The problem of sex trafficking has not been solved by what's been put in place. In fact, it's made no difference to the illegal trafficking that's going on, but instead what it's done is caused massive issues for any sites that are providing adult content and any creators who make that content as their job. Examples of other initiatives that these groups have been involved in that have been under the guise of helping people instead to achieve their aims has been changing AIDS programs that worked with sex workers to programs that just promoted abstinence, so essentially telling these people that they shouldn't be doing the work that they do, and getting police to do trafficking raids which actually just targeted sex workers and got them put in jail. These groups, they're not working with the sex work industry to try and ensure legal conditions, they're working against them to try and bring them down from the inside. Like, OnlyFans dropping their adult content is just the next step in this aim, and it's going to affect the thousands of creators who are legally making money on the site more than it could ever affect anyone who is creating or distributing illegal content. And it has far more implications for sex work than anyone who is reading about the ban would see on the surface. Like, money makes the world go round, and when the payment companies are making decisions that go against the industry is going to crumble. Even though for now it's only MasterCard, it's highly likely that Visa and any other payment processing company is also going to follow them, which would mean that there isn't really any way around this for sites like OnlyFans. I really made this whole video about OnlyFans only for them to decide just before I start editing it that they're not going to go through with the ban, or they're going to suspend the ban. So essentially they said today, which is Wednesday, this video was supposed to go out Friday, so they said it right before I was supposed to post it, that they have come to an agreement with the banks who are causing the problem so that they can still continue to provide sexually explicit content, and essentially we think that that is because they published how much money they were making, aka payments of over $300 million every month. So obviously the banks don't want to be losing out on $300 million because that's quite a lot of money. So they have decided that they are going to alter their rules a little bit to make sure that OnlyFans can still provide this content, but also probably because of the amount of backlash that they got over this. Like, this was not one person saying, hey, I don't think this is right. This was like every creator on OnlyFans saying, hold on a second, like, don't take my income away from me. So basically they've gone back on the decision, and everything that I said about like Kristof, I can't even remember what his name is, that guy and his like agenda and those groups who are trying to bring down the industry, and the reasons why the site decided to put the ban in place in the first place, all of that still stands. What does not stand is that the banks now have changed their tune and said, actually no, we will continue to allow OnlyFans creators to make money from sexually explicit content, as probably a result of them realising just how much money that content actually makes for the site. So yeah, that's like a little update to this. Most of what I said still stands, just it's any talk of a ban. That ban now apparently is not going to go ahead, or at least it's not going to go ahead in October when it was supposed to. There may still be some changes in the future, but for now, the Christian propaganda groups trying to take down the sex work industry have found a block in the road, which is good, because otherwise they were on a path of destruction that they were just getting more and more power to be able to tell people what they should do and end up shutting down massive companies like OnlyFans. But yeah, that's the update on that. I'm happy to see that they've decided to go with this, that the banks have changed their tune, but this again is just indicative of the fact that it's the money that is fueling the business, not the people who are making that money. So if they can't make money from these banks, they will not run that business. So now that the banks are in cooperation, finally they have decided that they are going to do what the creators want them to and keep allowing sexually explicit content on the platform. Sorry, one more thing. Also, people are angry at the fact that they did this U-turn when they realised that the people who bring in the most amount of money is the sex workers, and without them the platform is not going to be making what it was making before, where OnlyFans basically now are trying to do like a complete U-turn and say like, oh no, we're here for you guys, like yay creators, when before they literally could not give a fuck what was going to happen to the people who were posting that kind of content on their platform, because they were all about money. Essentially, they did not want to lose the money that these creators were providing to them, so then they tried to reach an agreement with the bank, realizing how much they were going to lose out on if these creators left their platform, and so collectively they've all decided we're only going to make money if we keep these people on our platform, and therefore we need to keep these people on our platform. So they are not looking great right now, because there's a lot of people who had already like closed accounts or moved to different platforms because they were thinking, you know, I need to plan ahead for what's going to happen in October. So there's a lot of angry people right now, and essentially they have only decided to do this not for their creator base, but because they only care about money. So they're not looking the best right now, and I feel sorry for anyone who is on OnlyFans who has gone through a lot of stress, I imagine, in the past couple of days, thinking that they were going to have their entire job like taken from them, only to then have it handed back for seemingly nothing. So yeah, they're not particularly popular, the people behind OnlyFans right now, because they look like they don't care about their creators and they only care about the money that those creators make for them. So yeah, I thought it was just needed to be thrown in there that even though they have made the change, they've only made it for money and not for the protection of their creators, who are the people who are making them all of that money. So my final thoughts on this is that it's really unfortunate how one author with a twisted agenda has managed to cause this whole palaver and potentially ruin the lives of thousands of people who are legally making money on OnlyFans in order to, you know, fund themselves living. Like, this is not going to stop illegal content, this is not going to stop sex trafficking, and this is not going to stop child exploitation, because these rules, as we've seen, are too tenuous for big sites to want to implement and want to spend the money to implement. So instead they'll just drop adult content completely, and that will be the only thing that gets hindered. Like, this is not providing extra protection to vulnerable people who need it. Instead, it's taking it away, because now that content will surface on places like the dark web that has no regulation, rather than sites with teams of moderators like OnlyFans. This is punishment to creators of legal content in exchange for little to no help to the victims of actual exploitation and sex crime. So essentially, there are no winners here apart from these groups who have the aim of bringing down the industry completely. That is all that I have to say for now about OnlyFans. I'm sure there'll be more information about the ban that comes out soon, but this was a little bit different, a little bit more serious than my usual videos, just in terms of the topic is not just about like petty internet drama or influencers. This was more about like an actual thing that's going to ruin a lot of people's lives if it goes ahead. But I just thought it was quite interesting and wanted to talk about it, so I hope that you guys enjoyed anyway. If you did, then let me know, leave a like on the video, leave a comment if you did, and make sure you are subscribed down below so you don't miss an upload. I will also leave all the sources that I mentioned down below, apart from Kristof's article, because I don't want to promote him and his agenda, but the BBC articles and the documentary are going to be linked in the description if you want more information about that. I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. Bye guys!